You're muted. There you go.
Okay, hello and welcome. So I know that we have a few other people who will be logging on in just a few minutes, but we can go ahead and get started because we have a wonderful panel and it is 5:30 on a Monday. So let's go ahead and get started on this. This is going to be very interactive. So as we are hearing from our presenters, feel free to raise your hand, unmute yourself, ask some questions. Just really, we want to make this as interactive as possible and, give you the best education we can. Okay. So everyone can see my screen. Yes. So welcome. This is about moving in general, but specifically tailored to leaving New Jersey. So we have some great panelists that can talk to that. How do I advance here? There we go. Okay, so this is the overview. We're going to go through the introductions. We're going to meet the panel. We have a real estate agent, a mortgage lender, tax and finance professional, and we've got a moving consultant. Then we're going to move to some Q&A, and then we will close. So here is our panelist. So first we're going to have Pete Lorenzo. Again, he is our team leader here at the Lorenzo.
Before there's any more questions, wrap that thing up.
I want to have people mute.
Are you on?
Yep. Okay, Mary Ellen, could you mute yourself, please? I think I can mute all participants. All right. Beautiful. So Peter Lorenzo, he is our team leader here at the Crawford Lorenzo home selling team, Keller Williams Metropolitan. He and his colleague, Chris Baggio, are going to give us a little bit of information on the market and kind of what to expect when you're looking to sell your home to move and then buy a home in the new location. Greg Bartiromo, he's our mortgage loan professional. He is with U.S. Bank, and U.S. Bank is a national bank. And so basically he can help you with finances anywhere in the world, your mortgages anywhere in the United States. We have Deborah Schaub. She's our CPA. She is our mastermind behind all of your taxes and kind of helping you figure out what that move is going to look like to your bottom line. And then we have Bobby Floyd, our certified moving consultant, and he's going to share with us what is needed and what to expect when you are on the move. Okay, so we're going to start with Pete Lorenzo. So I'm going to give you a little background on Pete. He's been in real estate for about 10 years. He was born and raised in Morristown, and Pete has a reputation for being respected and extremely positive member of the community. As a Penn State graduate, his business mind comes from corporate skills. See, I'm going to mute everybody, I think.
There you go.
All right, how do I mute everybody? Mute all. Mute all. Okay. Yes, mute all. And we will continue. Did I mute myself? No. Okay, we're good. All right. So again, as a graduate of Penn State, his business mind comes from years of corporate skills and experience. The same experience and skills required to keep informed while consulting with his clients daily on finding the perfect home or selling their home for top dollar. He understands the competition and uses the latest technology, marketing research, and business strategies to help give his clients the best attention and results they are looking for. Hometown experience is priceless. Whether you are from the region looking to upgrade, downsize, or relocate to this existing and growing community, or moving away from it, Pete is who you want to work with. And a little fun fact, Pete actually met his wife at an open house. So he truly is Mr. Real Estate. Take it away, Pete and Chris.
That's a great fun fact. And I'm glad to have my business partner, Chris Baggio, here with me. A little bit about us and our team so you can see the value and where this is coming from. And Michelle, thanks for kicking this off again. We're going to have a series of these as we get into what's still a very busy, I'll call it sellers or balanced market. I've been doing real estate for 10 years. Out of Morristown, I've had the wonderful luxury and grateful to work under Gordon Crawford, who's been doing real estate, and so is Chris for the past 50 years. So I feel like from day one, we were really 10x on information and guidance and leading people to buy and sell homes. We also run a pretty tight ship here, and we try to stay ahead of what's going on in the market through a lot of different communications and meetings that other teams or brokerages don't have. So any way we can help and share our knowledge with buyers or sellers, that's key. I'll also start off with what's going on in the real estate market. First and foremost, I've got friends all across the country, and I am grateful, and feel free just to pop, talk to Chris. The one thing I'm most grateful for in this market or any market, and people say, oh, New Jersey. I still think New Jersey is one of the greatest states out there. It has so much to provide to us. I can be at the beach in 2 hours. I can be in the mountains, in 2 hours. I've got New York City 45 minutes away from me. I can go see a Broadway play. People come everywhere in the world to be what's 35, 40 miles from us. So, granted, how does that affect our market? I do a Monday morning market review, and every day I look at where we are in Morristown. And our office is a hub here. And Michael put it here because a lot of people come in. Morristown's known as West Hoboken, if you would. And I always look at Morristown, Morris Township, Morris Plains, Madison, Chatham, Florham Park, and look at kind of the socioeconomics of those two enclaves or those two niches. And what I've seen in the market, and I'm going to ask Chris what he's seeing, is I track what's happening in the market weekly. That our average price point was about 730,000. It's about 850,000 now over the past 3 years. So it's gone up 100,000 in 2 years. Seems like a lot. It's probably what's happened nationwide, but certain things happen differently in the market. And 600 to 900,000, I've seen increase in inventory. I've seen homes still selling. Average days on the market 30 to 35. In the price point of $1 million to $2 million, which is Madison, Chatham, Florham Park, I've seen a decrease in confidence in listings right now. I just don't see people putting the listing on the market right now. When they are up, they're taking a little bit longer to sell. So I'm looking at the luxury market versus, I don't want to say the non-luxury market, but that price point just underneath. I still think it's a very good market, and people say this is the hardest market it's been. I don't know if it is a hard market, but we're also dealing with the highest interest rates we've seen turn around, almost triple in a year's time period, and a low inventory. That doesn't mean people don't need to buy and don't need to sell. So you want to add anything to that?
One thing I'll add first and foremost is Michelle threw the fun fact out, so I'll piggyback off that I always felt like open houses are the best source of leads. So Pete, you did well on that, meeting Kathleen at that open house. The other thing I'll say, and Michelle could also attest to this, Michelle and I were both clients of Gordon Crawford. So, Gordon was the first person that I spoke with when I was thinking about going into real estate, and that's coming up on 5 years now. So I've only really been in this market, really the post-COVID market. Now, what we are seeing now that's a little bit different. We did see some of this last year, was a little bit of seasonality creeping back in. Now, as we head towards the end of the year with the holidays rapidly approaching, and Bobby Lloyd can attest to this because Bobby and I are in the same networking group, and I go over my stats every week. So Pete looks more at the very extreme local market of Morristown. I always look at Morris County as a whole. And for the past 4 weeks, we haven't hit over 100 new listings in a week. In a really good market, we're getting 250 listings in it per week, like at the height of the spring season. That number is only going to shrink as we head into the holidays. And then typically when we come out of, when we hit February, and Super Bowl Sundays is typically like the unofficial start of the spring season. So we're in a quiet period for real estate right now. So it's definitely good to have these conversations. Like Pete says, we're a transient state. There are people coming in at the end of the year. They're going to maybe look for a house, and they come in for a week and they have to buy a house, right? So I always tell my buyers and sellers that, always stay involved in the market. There's never a bad time to have your home on the market, because you never know when that buyer is going to want to walk through your door. So
I'll go into a little bit about the real estate move checklist. And, it's, what do you want to do with your home? Are you going to sell your home? Are you going to keep your home? If you're finding a home out of state, what's the process for that? And a little bit about timing. So what do you want to do with your home? I think it's key right now. Do you want to maintain that home right now? or do you want to keep it as passive income? I find a lot of people on having to sell are either downsizing or they're moving out of state, what this seminar is for. So usually if you're moving out of state, you have to make the decision, do I want to be a landlord or not? If you do want to be a landlord, I think having a management company is key. Most of the people, 99% of the people or 90% of the people I'm working with right now are selling their home to either get out of state because it's time, or to probably downsize. They've owned their home for quite some time. I think renting it, again, that takes a management company to work with. That's another side step that we can talk about. Finding the perfect home out of state, I really think it's connecting with the right agents, which at Keller Williams, we've got agents all across the country. Chris and I are really close to about 50 of them that we're constantly meeting with and talking to all the time. So if you start thinking about where you want to go, I think we'll talk about that part of the process, we'll talk about selling your home before or after. Getting you in touch with the right agent out of state is very important. And then timing, of that, I think there's not just one thing going on anymore in real estate. You're not just selling your house and then, going to find something else. There's usually other things that are taking place. Life changes. That's a lot of what's happening right now. Whether it's downsizing, whether it's, and I don't want to use, seniors downsizing in the house or in Colonial with stairs for a long period of time. We're seeing a lot of that. I thought about leaving. Now's the time. I don't want to go, through another winter in New Jersey. We're seeing a lot of that. So how do we set you up for success? If you are going to sell your home first, I'm going to say, if you want to buy your home first, that's just about 10% of the people out there. So in summary, 10% of the people I work with can go buy their home and then sell their home. It's not the norm. If you are going to sell your home, you want to work on having an agent in, preferably somebody from the Crawford Lorenzo selling team. Look at prepping that home. You probably are talking to other agents outside the region or the state. You selected a home, you bought that home, and then you're coming back, or we're handling that sale for you. 90% of the time, you've got selling your home first to buy your home. So in summary, 90% of the people have to sell their home first to buy something. The key with that in this market, and this is the most important thing, how do I keep my clients safe and moving forward and optimistic with the opportunities? And I'll end with this because I think we just have 10 minutes each, and Chris can add to anything. What I'm working on, 4 of my transactions right now are, let's get your home on the market, seller. We got it ready. Let's get your home on the market. I'm going to put you in touch with somebody in this state or this area. We're going to sell your home, and then you're going to do a use and occupancy. That way you get money in the bank. You are being as strong as possible when you're going after other offers. And I probably can negotiate 30, 60, maybe 90 days. I'm doing one right now where it's, hey, they're going to buy the home and they're going to let the seller sit there for 4 months so they can go find something in Washington, D.C. That's what you can do in this market. So be very clear as a seller, that doesn't happen all the time. This is probably the second time in a decade that you've got that much power and that much interest. Don't let the high interest rates and low inventory deter you from selling. It's a key time right now, because if the interest rates do go down, there's going to be a lot more competition. Right now, you can get your home on the market, be one of those unique, beautiful homes on there, and get a buyer that really wants it. Did you want to add anything?
No, I think you made all the major points.
Any questions, Michelle?
Yeah, any questions? No, thank you so much. Go ahead and mute yourself, please.
Sure.
Thank you. Some great information, and yeah, Gordon sold me my house about 4.5 years ago, and then a year afterwards, he said, "Come into real estate," and I said, "Okay." So here I am, and love it. So next up, we have Greg Bartiromo. So he's our mortgage loan officer from U.S. Bank. Again, this is a national bank. I'll give you a little bit of information on Greg, and then I'm going to let him take it away. So he is a strategic leader and mentor who has spent over 25 years working as an athletics coach, educator, fundraiser, and entrepreneur. He thrives in settings where he can connect with and contribute to the success of an individual, a family, a team, or an institution. Greg's relationships are built on trust, and combine them with his passion for helping people to the next venture, educating home buyers, owners, and builders on loan options. As a mortgage loan officer at US Bank, Greg has the ability to help people in all 50 states. There it is, national, and leverage the depth of his organization, compassion, and creative problem-solving skills to guide his clients to the right financial decision for mortgages and refinancing. As a national leader with many different products, Greg can patiently help you discover the best financial situation for your needs at any location that you want to settle on. Fun fact, he was a high school ice hockey coach. Take it away.
Hi, how are you, everybody? Great to see everybody. Thank you for this opportunity, and I hope we can bring some value here in the mortgage space. Michelle, do you click or do I click to the next slide? There we go. All right. So as Pete touched on earlier, getting ready to buy, I think is really a very important part of your process if you're ready to leave New Jersey and go somewhere else. One of the things that we do at US Bank, and we've done a lot with the office over there, is to not only do the old pre-approval. I think that may be the next slide. If you can move that, that's okay. You can leave it. I'll just talk to the point. We try to do a full mortgage approval for people in order to, in this competitive market, to get your. Here we go. Thank you, Michelle. We try to do a full approval, which the difference here, you can see it on the slide, is a full application. Your income and your documents are verified, and you actually end the process with a full mortgage commitment. Most times that comes late in the process of buying a home. We're going to do it before you find a home. So as Pete said, let's do this early. Let's prep. Preparing is a key, because you are going to prepare with us. You're going to get a pre-approval versus the pre-qualification, which is a letter that really is required, but we don't do any, we don't look into your income. We don't look into your assets or your liabilities. And oftentimes those could come back as different. And that's how a mortgage could fall through. That's always the seller's concern, is that their buyer is not going to get the mortgage. We're going to take it off the table. We're going to get your mortgage done before you find your property. It's really just a great way to ensure you to get your home and your offer accepted. So as of November 15th, we will have 52 different loans. We have some new ARM products, which are great. As I say to everybody, I think there's I don't know, we have 14 or 15 people on this call today. That to me means there's 14 or 15 different loans. Everybody has a different loan, and as a financial professional, my job is to talk to my clients, get to know them, and find out what they want to do with their mortgage. Decades ago, in different generations, there was a 30-year fixed, and that's what everybody did. That is not the case anymore. Again, we're in the 50s. I think it's 52 different loans, which is going to, everybody here is going to fit into a different one, because we're going to talk about what your situation is. How long are you going to be in the home? What are your goals? How much are you putting down? Is this a first home, a second home, an investment property? So there are a lot of different things that I take into account when I get to know my client. It's really important to me to put somebody in the right loan and not just slap the 30-year fixed and give them whatever the rate is. To that point, we have portfolio lending, which is a jumbo loan. Anything over that number right there, 726,200, we would put into our bank's portfolio. We lend directly from our funds. There's an advantage there, because the guidelines are US Bank guidelines as opposed to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac guidelines. And with that, we can do something like you see on the screen there, 10% down up to $1,250,000 without mortgage insurance, without a rate increase for the 10% down. That really helps a lot of our buyers in that sweet spot price point, because they can keep the 10% to possibly do renovations, buy furniture, whatever it is they would need to do. So as part of the amount of loans that we have, you can see the list there. We do have specific physician loans. U.S. Bank is one of the few banks that offers lot loans, vacant land loans, construction to perm loans, which we take that lot loan and we turn it into a construction loan. So folks that are, the last one I did was somebody buying a piece of land in North Carolina. They were living in New Jersey. They bought North Carolina. They got a lot loan, and then we moved them to a construction to perm loan. And we handled it from the first meeting till they got the keys for the home. And it was great. It was really an amazing process to see it all go through and to help the client. We also have FHA loans and VA loans, which are excellent products. The VA loan is just a beautiful benefit for our veterans. It's awesome to do those. They can be done with zero money down. And I just did one for a family in Philadelphia, and it was amazing. They didn't take a penny out of their pocket, and they bought a home. So that's some of the benefits of us, some of the differences. And again, I said earlier, we're a direct lender. And we are a bank, so the lending is coming from the bank. Talking about preparing, I would suggest to everyone in the room should know your FICO credit score for mortgage. Most people, I would say 99% of the people, they tell me what their credit score is, it comes back lower. And credit score is a very, very big predictor of your rate. So that's something that is really important right now, knowing that FICO score and taking care of it before you apply. Once you apply, you're stuck with that score for 3 months. So you can't say, oh, I changed some things. I lowered my score. Unfortunately, we have to use that. You can't do another credit pull for benefit of rate. So that's about FICO score there. As I said earlier, everybody's journey is different, and what I really, really like to do, especially with anybody who's coming to me for a loan, is to really sit down and talk about what their goals are. Again, as I said, everybody's different. I would say one of the things right now is sitting on the sidelines. Pete mentioned it earlier, but there are a lot of people a lot of experts in the field. I always like to quote Barbara Corcoran, who says not to sit on the sidelines. Don't wait, because if you wait, the only thing that's going to happen is more people are going to enter the market, which is going to drive the prices up, and it's going to create more competition, and it's going to be harder for people to buy the price point that they want to. The saying is, marry your home, date your interest rate, which I always cracked up when I first heard that. But hearing it now and being in this place in the time in the world, in the country, it's really smart information. You're going to get your house today at whatever the number is. It's always the hardest conversation in the room to talk about interest rates. But if it starts with a 7 and you refi it to a 5, that's a big savings. And you may not be able to afford that home even if those rates are down, because the prices are going to go up. So buy it, refi it later. And there we are. So as I said earlier, we have a lot of different loan options, more than we had previously. We can lend in all 50 states, and I really would suggest anybody here who's saying, okay, I'm even thinking about it for a year from now, have a conversation with me now, and we can set you up and do the things to get you ready to get your purchase in line before it's too late. Oftentimes people fall in love with a house and they're not ready for their mortgage, so they have to scramble. And the mortgage shouldn't be a scramble. It really just takes 2 weeks. And if we do it at a nice, easy pace, you finish the 2 weeks and you get a mortgage commitment. You're ready to go. So I think that's it. Do I have any others, Michelle? Sorry.
That's your last slide, sir.
All right. Great. Any questions from anybody in the mortgage space?
I don't see any questions in the chat. Nobody in the room, online, no. All right.
I'll be here if you have any questions at the end.
Great, thank you, Greg. Go ahead and mute yourself, please. So one thing I didn't mention before we kind of got into, the speaker rotation here is that we kind of lined it up. Every single one of these people you're going to have to involve in your move, and it's really going to be kind of a timeline thing. Your first concept is, whoa, do I sell? Do I rent? Do I buy? Contact your real estate agent. Okay, now what do I qualify? You kind of contact Greg and Pete at the same time, and then, oh, how is this going to impact my taxes? So that's where our lovely Debbie comes in to talk to us about how, what that's going to look like when you have to sell your home, or if you want to keep it as passive income, what that's going to look like as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just give a little introduction for her, and then I'll let her take it away. So she is a 20-year veteran in the industry. Debbie is the creator and founder of C&B Accounting. She helps her clients understand and optimize their finances by leveraging decades of corporate financial experience, working with industry leaders such as Pricewaterhouse and IBM. Debbie advocates for her individual clients, her entrepreneurs, and not-for-profit organizations, providing them with ideas, insight, and knowledge to navigate the complex world of accounting, compliance, and financial planning. As a virtual CPA and accredited tax planner, she works alongside her clients and to assist and understand your personal goals far beyond your bank account, to strategize, maximize your returns, lower your expenses, and feel secure in knowing you have a top professional at your side. Her philosophy applies to almost everyone. If you don't truly understand your finances and know your numbers work for you, then you're losing money. So fun fact about Debbie is that she is a world traveler. She backpacked for 2 months through Europe and is going to Egypt still, I think, right? Go ahead, Debbie, take it away.
Hi, everyone. So thank you, Michelle, and thank you everyone for having me here. And taxes, like everybody's favorite thing to talk about, I know. So the next slide, and we'll kind of get into what everybody asks. So when you're selling your home in New Jersey, like what's going to happen next? And unfortunately, we all have to pay taxes. There's a lot of talk about taxes in New Jersey, and there's been a lot going on with, am I penalized for leaving New Jersey? And that's not quite the case. So I like to always talk about the New Jersey exit tax. All it really is it's not a penalty or an exit tax necessarily for leaving. Despite the confusion, it's simply just that you have to pay an estimated tax when you're leaving to make sure that it's either 2% of the selling price or 8.97% of your profit, whichever is higher. If you remain in New Jersey, so if you're just moving from one home in New Jersey to another, you won't have to worry about that. However, if you do leave at closing, you can fill out a form, and if you're like, say there's not going to be any gain, you're not going to have a capital gain, you can fill out a form and you will get your money paid, so you don't have to wait till filing taxes. So that's the good news. So they're really just making sure they collect their money upfront, or at least what they're anticipating, and then they'll give that back to you as soon as you finish the closing. So that's the exit tax. And then the next screen are home exclusions. So this is another area that we really like to do some tax planning with and to talk about. So most homeowners know that there is this exclusion, but the key is that you need to make sure that you lived in your home for 2 out of 5 years leading up to the sale. And if you're married, you can get an exclusion of $500,000. And if you're single, you'll get $250,000. And that of your gain is tax-free. So the thing that I always like to mention is, say, like a lot of people, if you're retiring and you want to maybe have one house here in New Jersey and you're moving to Florida, you just want to make sure that the 2 out of 5 years is met. So you have to be really careful with that, or you will lose the exclusion. Selling costs. That's another area that we get a lot of questions on. Can you deduct all of your selling costs? There are some you can deduct, and there's some that you can't. The selling costs that can be deducted are going to be your title insurance, your property taxes up to the $10,000 that, you know, the federal government has for all taxes. You can deduct title fees and abstract fees, some of your legal and recording fees. You can do survey fees, transfer stamps. You won't be able to add these expenses to your basis, but you can, when you look at your disclosures, you will be able to deduct them as long as it goes with whoever paid them. So if you have a deal that you might have worked out and the seller agreed to pay some of it, then you obviously can't take that deduction. The IRS considers mortgage points to be charges paid to take out a mortgage. So that sometimes causes some confusion. They may include origination fees, discount points, and they could represent a percentage of your loan amount. For these costs to be tax deductible, you have to meet all of the following conditions. The mortgage must have been used to buy or build your primary home. Paying points is established practice in the location where the loan was made. The points paid were normally priced for the area, so you have to be careful with all of that. You have to use the cash method of accounting, which most people do. And these points weren't paid instead of closing costs, such as appraisal fees, inspections, and you can prove that you or the seller paid the points. So that's pretty straightforward. Unfortunately, you can't deduct all of your fees, and that's just the way it works. So you can't deduct your homeowner insurance premiums. You can't deduct your mortgage principal payments. I get that question a lot. People want to be able to deduct everything they're paying for their mortgage. You can only deduct the interest. You can't deduct your utilities. And unfortunately too, when you're selling a primary home, even if you have a loss on it, you can't deduct losses, and you also can't deduct losses that were caused by a sale that fell through. Appraisal fees are also not deductible, as well as notary fees and any documentation preparation fees. So those you can't take any deductions on. If you sell your house at a gain, you may be able to exclude part or all of the profit. And this is also where, and I'm sure most people have heard of this, this is why everybody says if you're doing home improvements, are they capital? If so, make sure you keep all your receipts, because we can, what we call in tax world, increase your basis. Meaning if you put a pool in, we can use whatever the cost of the pool was to increase the cost that you paid for the house to lower your gains. Again, you'll get the exclusion as long as you lived in the house for 2 to 5 years. And on top of that, though, you still want to be able to, if you've lived there for a while, be able to increase your basis by everything you've done to the house that you can't take with you. So, you know, hardscape, patios, outside like pools, inside, it can be any kind of kitchens, appliances, anything you've done to increase the value of your home. And, you know, again, I think we're just talking about like making sure you're there for the 2 out of 5 years, you know, making sure that even if there's, God forbid, a death and it's an estate sale, you still make sure you're there for the 2 out of 5 years after the death. You don't want to let that escape. So that's because otherwise you will start to pay gains again from the fair market value on. And then just a little bit about me, just what I offer my clients. So I do encourage you, though, whenever you're getting ready to buy a property, to talk to an accountant and just make sure you have everything in a row. Everybody here, your realtors, they're a wonderful group of people who can give you lots of advice. And I think you're just really want to make sure that you're fully understanding all the consequences that you'll have by selling your home. And that's all I have.
Awesome, Debbie. Thank you so much. Always well done. So I know this is a very popular subject. Does anyone have any specific questions? Anyone from the room?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Debbie, yeah. Okay, we understand that if you sold, let's see, can you avoid the so-called exit tax, which you say is not an exit tax, but it sure looks like one to us? If you sold and then didn't move out and rented for a couple of years, can you avoid having to pay something like that?
So when you sell, you're still selling. So
Yeah, right.
basically what would happen is you would figure out what you're going to owe actually. And if you really didn't owe anything, so it really depends on what's happening with the home, right? So if you had no capital gain on the home, then you would just file the forms. It's a pretty quick form, and New Jersey's pretty good about getting you back that money, but you would have to pay it up front if you're leaving the state.
If
So
you're
it's
leaving the state.
yeah, if you're staying in New Jersey, then you don't have to.
Does leaving the state also mean becoming a resident in another state as opposed to just owning like a vacation property in another state?
It would be becoming a resident in another state.
Yes.
Like if they
Okay.
thought you were leaving New Jersey and you were no longer going to pay state taxes to New Jersey, then you would have to face the exit tax. Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful. Oh yeah, my husband's asking, because you were talking about increasing the basis price. Does roofing, a big roofing and siding project,
Absolutely.
would that? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, absolutely.
great. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks.
Awesome. Great question, Mary. Thank you so much. So we're going to continue on our journey. All right. So now we've got our real estate agent. We've got our pre-approval and we understand the tax implications. So now we're going to move on to the move. All right. So we have Bobby Lloyd with Booth Movers. And I'm going to give you a little background on Bobby. So he's a certified moving consultant with Booth Movers. Originally from Baltimore, he has been in the moving industry since 1979. He was a hands-on mover for 30 years before transitioning to sales. Bobby Lloyd is a certified moving consultant with Booth Movers. I'm repeating myself because I put it on here. Some of his more prestigious clients he has had and worked with over the years include T. Rowe Price, Northrop Grumman, Baltimore Orioles, and the Ravens. And a fun fact, George H. Bush. Did you actually get to meet him?
Unfortunately, I met not him, but met Barbara.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, take it away, Bob.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. All right. So when do you contact a mover and who do you contact? It could be very tricky if you don't do your homework and know the right things to do. So when do you contact a mover? As soon as you know where you're moving to and you have a date that you think you'll be leaving this, your existing home. The sooner the better, because moving charges are like airfare. The closer you get to your move date, the higher the seat price, so to speak. So, keep that in mind. When you buy an airline ticket for July and you're buying it in January, it might cost you $200. If you buy it in June, it's going to be $400. And that's the same way the moving industry operates. It's all based on demand. Always contact a licensed and insured long distance moving company. The most reliable and trustworthy companies are what we call in the industry the big six. The big six are in alphabetical order: Allied Van Lines, Atlas Van Lines, Beacons, Mayflower, North America, and United. These are very large moving companies. They're all nationwide, and they're all very good movers. So that you're in good hands if you use one of them. Do your homework. Never ever use a broker. A lot of brokers misrepresent themselves as actual moving companies, when in fact they're just selling your move off to the lowest bidder. And that might not even be a licensed mover. Could be a transit truck that just hires a helper for the day that says, "Oh, we'll move your stuff." So be very careful as to not hire a broker. If you want to know what I'm talking about there, just Google moving with a broker and you will see many, many horror stories related to that. So the next thing, getting an estimate. A mover must do a visual or virtual survey. Like I said, a visual in person or virtual survey. It is against the law for a mover to give you an estimate based off of a phone conversation or an online form. They may give you an estimate, and it's not going to be binding unless they actually did the visual survey. So that's very important to remember. You need to decide on what items you're going to bring. Not insurance evaluation yet, but you need to decide on the items you want to move, and whether you're going to pack them or whether you want the moving company to pack them. And this is a very important decision, and we'll discuss that in a minute or two here when we do discuss the insurance evaluation coverage. One thing to remember, the estimate is only good for a limited amount of time. Summer, as little as 5 days. In the winter months, it can be good for 30 days, even sometimes 60 days. But in the summer, as little as 5. So you want to try to decide on your mover before it expires, or they'll need to update that. And again, back to the it's like flying thing. The price is going to generally be higher. Now we're going to get to the valuation coverage / insurance and the differences of these. Everybody always asks on almost every estimate, are you insured? Just about every single moving company is insured, and that means liability coverage. And the liability coverage protects your property, the walls in your house if they should be scratched, if the truck should run over a shrub or your mailbox in the driveway. It also protects against liability in the event one of our guys would get hurt on the job. So that's what insurance is. Valuation coverage is the protection for any damage that occurs to your belongings, either during loading, transit, and the unloading process. Basic valuation coverage, which is provided at no cost by all licensed moving companies, it covers damages at a rate of anywhere from 60 cents to $1 per pound. And that depends on what state you're in, and your starting point. And that's $1 per pound per article. So if you had a kitchen chair and it weighed 25 pounds and the leg got scratched, you would be compensated up to $25 towards repair or replacement of that item. So replacement cost coverage is available. All moving companies should be offering that. It is a paid per event coverage. And it's based on the dollar amount you select. So if you select $10,000 as your coverage level, that would insure everything you own up to $10,000 towards replacement. So if you had a piano that cost $9,095 and something happened that fell off the truck, that would be replaced under that coverage. So that's also for a long distance move, the catastrophic coverage. So if you only insure your whole shipment for $10,000, if that truck were involved in a major accident or, God forbid, it caught on fire somehow and all your belongings were destroyed, the maximum amount you would be compensated would be the number you chose. So if it's 10,000, everything you own is worth $10,000 in the event of a catastrophic loss. So you want to definitely purchase the insurance and the valuation coverage to make sure you're covered. There are exceptions to that coverage. And this goes back to whether you decide about whether you're going to pack your items or whether you're going to let the mover pack them. The exemptions with coverage are if you pack your own boxes, the mover is not liable for any damage or breakage within the boxes unless proof of mishandling is evident. And that's as if a box were crushed, it had water damage, it was punctured, or it looks like it had been dropped, corners all smashed in or something. If the box is in perfect condition and you found damage inside, 99.9% of the time, the claims are going to say you didn't pack it properly. So it's a good idea to inspect all of your items before the movers ever come, and handle them. Take photos, make sure that you know what your things look like. So now what to expect after the contract's signed. Once you sign the contract, they should guarantee you a date or dates, depending on how large your move is, of service at the origin. And those dates are locked in. If you decide you want to move on July 24th, that's on the paperwork, that's the day they're required to be there to pick up your items. At the time of signing, they will also give you a delivery window. And if you're moving to Florida or anywhere other than maybe the state next door, they're going to give you a window. And a lot of times that window can be as much as 14 days. So you just have to understand that the transit is based off of how many stops the driver has to make. If your shipment is half a truckload, more than likely that truck is going to have other shipments on it. Somebody that may have a shipment about the same size as yours, or they could have someone moving 3 or 4 different small moves on there at the same time. So that's going to affect your delivery window. At time of delivery, movers should place the items where you want them, making sure that you're happy with how they're placed. During and after the unloading, inspect everything as it comes in. Because as the movers, and I skipped one bullet point a minute ago, when the movers get there, they're going to do an inventory. They're going to inspect all your furniture and they're going to create an inventory. And they literally list every scratch that they see, where it's located. If it's a scratch on a dining table, they're going to note all that. So it's important for you to inspect the items as they're coming into your new home, making sure no new damages have occurred. And if you see any damage at that time, note it on the bill of lading before the mover leaves. Just make sure that it's there. It will make the claim process a lot easier. And if you find something later, you have up to 180 days to file a claim. And that's if your, cabinet in the corner, you notice that it's scratched and you hadn't noticed that previously, or any kind of damages you find, you've got basically 6 months to make that claim. And then the movers should be addressing those claims and taking care of them based on the valuation coverage that you've purchased. And that's pretty much it. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
That was great, Bobby. I actually didn't know that that's how the insurance worked with the dollar per pound. So your chair is worth 20. That's pretty interesting. Thank you for that. Does anyone else have any other questions? I think you covered a lot of things that, how often do we move? Not a lot. And when you do, it's kind of, same thing with how often do you sell your home? Not that often, but when you do, you need the professionals to help you and guide you and making sure that, you're doing it right and you're using the people that you're supposed to use. So thank you, Bobby. Really appreciate it. So I did get a couple of questions from the chat and also from online before we started. So this is actually a question for you, Bobby. So how much can you anticipate a move from one coast to the other? It's kind of a quick calculation on your feet here. So basically they're asking about a cross-country move with a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home.
Okay. So everything varies.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. I've got this for you. There's a rule of thumb in the industry. And regardless of whether you're moving to Florida, to Connecticut, to California, The average cost is somewhere around $1 per pound. So as you walk around your house, you can try to estimate how much things weigh. The average 3-bedroom house is going to weigh somewhere around 10,000 pounds. Maybe slightly under that, maybe slightly more than that, depending on how, densely furnished things are. So, it would be very normal for a mover to say, oh, you're moving to Florida. It's $10,000 or more. And that doesn't include any packing services. That's always going to be an extra cost. And that's basically done by the amount of boxes that they have to pack.
That also kind of brings up an interesting question that you mentioned, that the packers or the movers, if you pack it yourself, they're not responsible for the most part. But if they pack it, then they would likely be responsible. But that's a cost. What is that average cost? Like, how much would a packer cost approximately? Or what are the rules?
That varies greatly. Most moving companies are going to say, we'll bring a 3-bedroom house, for instance. We'll send 3 guys out there. It's going to take them roughly 8 hours to do the move or do the packing. So cost of materials, which always fluctuates up and down. So a medium-sized carton on average is around $4.50 per carton. A large box or a dish carton are more expensive. Small cartons are cheaper, obviously. So the cost of the materials, that include packing paper, bubble wrap, tape, the boxes themselves are all an expense that fluctuates greatly. The cost of the guys to pack, basically they're there as an 8-hour, not as an 8-hour, but as an hourly rate. And on average for a 3-man team to pack something like that, you're looking at anywhere from $200 to $250 per hour. So expect that to cost around $2,000 for them to come pack things up. But again, then the mover is responsible for the contents. So if you open up a box, it looks perfectly intact and your china's cracked, then the mover is responsible for that. I think you're muted, Michelle.
Okay, there we go. I'm using Marie's computer. I'm not familiar with it. So I actually did have a question. I'm good. One more question for Bobby, and then I've got some other questions. So another one came up regarding gratuities for the movers. That is something that the individual would pay on their own discretion, or is that something that would typically be included in the cost?
Gratuities are never included in the moving costs that's given to you in the contract. I can tell you that 20% is not what's expected. You think of that going to a restaurant, somewhere like that, that 20% is a good gratuity for the team. Generally, if you give if a guy spends 8 hours on your move, on one day, and then they spend 8 hours on the delivery end, tipping anywhere from $50 to $100 per day is average per man.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Bobby. Let's see. I've got a question for Pete and Chris. So this is just talking about kind of the selling process. How far in advance of your move should you start making your house available to sell, and what are the steps involved in that?
Can you hear us?
Pete?
Yep. Hello.
Are
Can you hear us? Yeah.
Yes, now we can see
Oh,
you
good.
too.
Sorry, we're going back and forth. I hit something and we're on a different channel. In real estate, I took out the word wait a long time ago. I think every time you wait to do something, you wish you did. And whether that comes to getting a home ready, to taking photographs, I love when my clients say, look, it's not the dead of winter. We're gonna get the house ready, take the photographs. That way, when we make the decision to list, we're already set. The more you can do up front in this market, I say, wait, go out the door. It's just what I've learned over the past 10 years. You never want to wait. Gordon always used to say, do it now from a real estate agent perspective. If it's a buyer, put an offer in. If it's a seller, get the house ready. It might be little things or it might be big things. But start now.
Yeah, every situation is a little bit different. So it starts with a good consultation where we come in and we'll bring our listing associate in with us, who's gonna tell people what they need to do to, you know, she'll help guide our clients as to what they need to do to get their home prepared and in show ready condition.
And I think Chris makes a good point. You have to know in different markets, you have to do different things. If you're thinking of selling, you know, there's nothing wrong with getting the house ready, getting it on the market to see what you can get if you get that number. If not, you pull it off and you put it on at a different point in time. But you know, don't wait. I think and now I would take advantage of it too, because we are still what I would consider a seller's market. The inventory is so limited, and there are people that have to come to New Jersey to be here. They've got to be along the train line and north or south and the train line. People are always needing to come to New Jersey, so we'll help you find that buyer. Don't wait to get the house ready. Like Chris said, have one of us and our listing associate come over, take a look at it, tell you what to do. There's a lot less you have to do now, because if the inventory doubles, you're going to have to do a lot more.
Never too early to have the conversation.
Yep.
Great, thank you guys. And we have time for one more question. So this one is for Debbie. So if I keep my home in New Jersey and rent it and move out of state, will I have to pay capital gains income in both states?
So that's a complicated question. So there's two pieces to that. So if you're keeping your home, then you're not selling it. So there'd be no exit tax, but now you are converting it to a rental property. So there's passive income on that if you're not a real estate professional. So you would have to report, you'd have to take all the expenses, all the income that you get and show that on your tax returns, which would be, even if you left New Jersey, you'd still have a New Jersey rental property, thus a New Jersey state return. So that gets a little complicated. Usually the goal with passive income is, you know, you hope that the income and the expenses kind of keep your gains low. But if you have a loss on that rental property, you can't take the loss as a passive person. It can only offset gains unless you're a real estate professional, and then those rules change a little bit. So that's really a good question to kind of go over with a professional.
Good answer, Debbie. Thank you. And I actually have just one more question. This one's for Greg. It just came in. Greg, crystal ball, when are rates going to go down?
That the crystal ball is cloudy, as I say all the time. I wish I knew. It's the biggest question at every social party. You know, I always say that there are certain people that are always the most popular guy in the room. Like it's always like the golf pro. How that guy's a golf pro. I'm going to go talk to him. Somehow now everybody comes to talk to me. They're like, what's going on with the rates? I honestly, we don't know. But to that point, I would say, you know, the same thing I said earlier, and to the point of Pete and Chris, I think the move is to get the home and to worry about the rates later. I mean, they're higher than they've been in 20 years, coming off of the lowest they've been ever in the history of our country. You know, post global pandemic, which drove them there. You know, we can get into the hows and whys of why they got so low, but that was as high as they are now is as odd as low as they were. So I really don't have an answer. You know, there you can read, and I would read the same things that you would read. There are people that say third quarter next year that they should drop, but it's the hardest question in the room. I just don't have an answer. But I would say just don't let the rates scare you if you need a home, because when you want to get back in, and then there's going to be that many more people. You know, if you think about the number that's going to be the threshold that's going to be comfortable for you, is going to be all those other people are going to be comfortable with that, and then they're going to sell. So the people who are at that number, 5, 4, whatever, they're all going to start moving, and the inventory, depending on what the inventory does, but prices are certainly going to go up because there's going to be more people buying. So, sorry, I
Right.
couldn't answer.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, it's the whole, you can wait for the interest rates to go down by 1 point, but then you're going to pay $30,000 more for the house. So,
Yeah. So which is going to be? Yep, it's a tough answer.
all right.
Me too,
Well,
Laura.
let us know when your crystal ball unclouds. All right. And with that, I want to thank everyone who is on Zoom and everyone who is in the room. Thank you for coming. We will be sending out the link to this, as well as the contact information for each of the panelists. So if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to any one of them for any questions that we didn't answer here on this seminar. And just wanted to thank you. Thank you again to Pete and Chris and Debbie and Greg and Bobby for being our panelists and on the call. And again, thank you so much. Have a wonderful Monday evening.
Michelle,
Wait,
you
there's one.
you have 1 second? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
great. So those of you who came tonight, again, thank you very much. We do want to run a series of these, because I think right now in this market, it's imperative for people to know if they're leaving New Jersey. You know, the matter of fact is, it's still a seller's market out there. So if you found value in today's seminar, please share it with your friends. You're going to see it on the Crawford Lorenzo Home Selling Team Facebook. You can get in touch with us, and we'll get the link for the next dates going out. So that's, you know, really helpful. We want to grow this over the next couple of weeks and months, because I think it's going to be an extremely valuable, informative topic coming up over the next 6 months. So thank you again for having us, or joining us.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.